break down that game. Taylor Swift, Lee Swift, whatever. Anyway, SK Gaming coming out strong here once again. Trevor, what did you make of the team comps coming into this one?
Well, straight up, Gambit had a much later scaling team comp. They had a majority of champions that needed time to build up. Evelyn's great at flanking. She can do well early, but needs to get items to survive those team fights. Lulu and Jax, obviously, all the time in the world to get 2 or 3 items before they're threats. On the other side of the coin, SK just had all the early game champions. Orianna can do well, especially when you combo with a Lee Sin, a Thresh, a Lucian, and a Renekton. But the thing is, Renekton roamed very well, and SK played around their early to mid-game power spike. They waited 10 minutes, then just turned everything on and destroyed Gambit.
Yeah, and it's actually started very early on, and when you have Eve and Lee Sin, they can both put some pressure on early game, but it was Svenskeren who came out swinging.
Yeah, Sven was everywhere in that game. As Joe said just at the end there, absolute epic performance from Sven. Fantastically played. You know, every time Diamond tried to make a play, or Gambit were trying to make a play, Svenskeren was already there, waiting in the bushes, lurking, ready to counter. And I think he had like a 96% kill participation, something crazy towards the end of the game. Fantastic stuff.
Up until the last 2 or 3 kills, Svenskeren was involved in every single kill. And it was only once SK were like steamrolling the rest of Gambit that he missed a couple. I do actually want to show highlights of one of the plays that Svenskeren and SK pulled on the bottom lane. So if we pull this up onto your screen, it really just summarizes this entire game. 18 minutes in, SK have already got a 4,000 gold lead. Svenskeren is already 5-2-1. And what you want to look at is how low N rated is for mana and HP. He's burned his ultimate a few seconds ago, and Svenskeren is just baiting all of Gambit. Gambit continued to force things. They were under pressure, they were behind, so they kept trying to make these plays. And Candypan and Svenskeren, they're just going to run Gambit down, grab themselves 2 kills. This was probably the 5th or 6th time we'd seen that exact set of circumstances of Svenskeren in the bottom lane finding kills.
I respect Gambit for trying to make it happen, but when the Lee Sin is 5-2 at that point, there is just not much you can do. Let's talk about Gambit a little bit. Talked about Diamond on Eve, which is one of his best champions historically, and sometimes the synergy between Nick seemed kind of off, between Nick and him.
Yeah, there was definitely a couple of times where they went in and just were not on the same page. Or maybe a Glitterlance missed, and honestly, I hate to be too harsh on the players, but Nick definitely missed a few crucial Glitterlances, which left Diamond to die.
At this level, if you miss that skill shot, the person dies.
Yeah.
If you miss the skill shot, you either get the kill or get away. And in this circumstances, unfortunately, Nick just dropped the ball a few times. There was a few odd-timed wild growths as well. But I think you could also potentially put that on the pressure. They were behind SK. They were falling behind. They'd given up so many kills. That's when your communication is really pushed to the limits. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out for Gambit.
Talking about communication, as we also heard in the bit there after the game, it is so on point from SK right now, and it just seems to be improving so rapidly. Everything we touch on, the week after, they've got it. They're doing it better.
Yeah, crystal clear, and that is really the hallmark of a team that knows what they're doing. You know, nobody's shouting over one another. You heard Freddie say, in base, going to teleport in. Next, he just sat back, went quiet, started teleporting the rest of the team, all talking about the move. Everybody knew their role in that fight. Instead, you'll see some other teams just shouting, just yelling targets. We've heard Impaler talking about Super Hot Crew's communications, and you know they're still 2nd in the table or 3rd in the table currently. They just yell the loudest at the target. It works for some teams, but you've got to think the clearest communications that SK just showed kept Freddy's 100% win rate on Renekton.
Yeah, it's also that clear communication that helps you when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason SK always bounce back, because when they're a couple thousand gold down in the mid game, they're not freaking out. They're not yelling over each other. They're just like, bro, I got TP, I'll come fight. And they win the fight.
Final question, Trevor. I know we've heard you in the pre-show a lot saying how you think Alliance will end so well this season. How far do you see SK going? Because it seems like with this entourage and the way they're improving so rapidly, we don't know where they're going to end.
I'm terrified, because I made a bold prediction that Alliance were going to win the split. And SK are making me go, maybe I'm not so sure on that. The one thing that we heard from Enrated right at the end there is he mentioned that the team's not scrimming as much and they're working on individual abilities. That shows for Enrated. His Thresh is fantastic. I never really liked his Thresh last split, and he's performed phenomenally this week on that champion. But when you've got that innate team synergy from playing together for 6 or 7 months, you've got the clear communication. You don't need the team-based play anymore. You've got that. It comes down to calling, communication, and adaptation on the fly in-game, which is what SK is showing every match.
And it's funny that you compare them with Alliance, because both teams were in exactly the same boat at the start of the spring. Completely new teams thrown together with a purpose to win And so far, it's looking like they may well be the top 2 for Europe once again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, guys. And now let's send it back over to the Fishy Joe at the desk for our next match.